Shomor means always in a sense of guarding. Et Chodesh HaAviv, the month of Aviv, Va'asita, and you shall make Pesach leYahweh Elohecha, a sacrifice, Pesach, to Yahweh your God. And we'll see that the word Pesach actually has three meanings. The most common meaning is Passover, or the Paschal Lamb, but there's actually two much deeper meanings. Yahweh Elohecha, ki b'chodesh ha'aviv, for it is in the month of Aviv, hotziacha Yahweh Elohecha miMitzrayim laila, that Yahweh your God took you out of Egypt by night. He freed you, right? V'zavachta Pesach leYahweh Elohecha, you shall bring an offering of the Pesach to Yahweh your God, sown, whether it is a sheep, uvakar, or is a cattle, uvamakom asher yivchar, the place which is chosen by Yahweh, l'shaken shmo sham, in order to establish a shaken, to make dwell his name there. Lo tochal alav chametz shivat yamim, you shall not eat any leaven, chametz shivat yamim, for 7 days. Tochal alav matzot lechem oni, you should eat only the bread of oni, of affliction. Ki b'chipazon yatzatem eretz Mitzrayim, because it is with haste that you left the land of Egypt. Laman, in order, why? Tizkor, to remember at Yom Seitcha Meretz Mitzrayim, the day that you left Egypt, the land of Egypt, Kol Yomei Chayecha, all the days of your life. So the purpose of the leaven has multiple meanings, but it also is salvation's redemption, right? The leaven is not just a symbol, and it's not just a remembrance. Every time we eat the leaven, even every time we eat the unleavened bread, is to remind us what keeps us in Egypt and how we can leave Egypt. We can leave Egypt if we take the leaven out of our lives, take the leaven out of our souls, right? So now, and for 7 days, no leaven should be found. B'chol gvulecha, and all your gevulacha is all your boundaries. Shivat yamim, 7 days. V'lo yalin min al-basar, and neither should you leave any of the flesh, min al-basar, from the meat, asher tizbach, which you have offered by erev, in the evening, by yom harishon, in the first day, la boker, in the morning. Lo tuchal lizboach et ha-pesach. You should not offer the Pesach, the offering, ba'achat sharecha. You're not permitted to slaughter the Pesach in one of the gates which Yahweh your God has given to you. Ki im halamatom, but in only one place, asher yivchar Yahweh Elohecha, which Yahweh your God dwells, who he has chosen to have his name dwell there. Sham tizbach et ha-pesach. There you should offer the Pesach. Ba'erev, in the evening, kavah hashemesh, when the sun has arrived, moed, it is a time of date, seitcha miMitzrayim, when you are leaving Egypt. Interesting turn of phrase there. Probably a lot of interesting interpretation. We could go into that. Anyway, but we're going to do a very simple teaching for today. Ubishalta, and you shall cook it. Achalta, and you should eat it. Vamakom, in the place asher yivchar Yahweh Elohecha, which the Lord your God has shown. Bo ufaniso ba'boker, in the morning. V'halachta lolecha, then in the morning you should return back to your journey home. That's what we're going to do here in Perry tomorrow. Today is our last day. Tomorrow we're leaving in the morning. We are returning back, and hopefully we will carry the Passover exodus, that spiritual lesson of not having the leaven and of eating the unleavened bread for 7 days. We carry that memorial within us to realize that it is the leaven that brings us back into Egypt, and it is the unleavened which takes us out of the land of Egypt, right? Shivat Yamim, 7 weeks, Shiva Shavot, 7 weeks, Tispor Lach, you shall count, Me'achel Charmesh, when the sickle is first poured, Bakama, and the standing grain, Tachel is poured, Shivat Shavot, that is when you begin to count the 7 weeks. Va'asita Chag Shavot, and you shall, and then you should make the festival of Shavuot, La Yahweh Elohecha, to the Lord your God, misat nidvat yadcha, your offering of the free will offering of your hand, asher titain, which you shall give, ka'asher yivarechecha Yahweh Elohecha, as the Lord has blessed you. In other words, start preparing your offering for the next festival. Right? Each festival is to have an offering that we are to bring, and in this case, we are to be readying our next offering for the festival of Shavuot. V'samachta, and you shall rejoice, lifnei, before Yahweh Elohecha, before Yahweh your God. Have you rejoiced?
Yes.
We have here in Perry. I hope you guys at home have also rejoiced.
We had a
Right?
wedding, we had a baptism, we had a dancing.
Right. Say it again, Abby. We had dancing, we had a baptism,
We had
we had a wedding.
Everything.
We had all kinds of celebration, right?
Food and-
We had food, we had teachings, we had controversy, we had everything. All mixed up. We had blessings, we had healings for blessings, right? We even had Russian stubbornness to be overcome. So right, samachta. Anyway, so you rejoice. It's a command to rejoice, people. You rejoice. So if you haven't rejoiced, you can do it now. It's not too late. You still have the rest of the Sabbath. Today, the Holy Sabbath, to rejoice. Actually, we're supposed to rejoice on the Sabbath with the Lord our God. Yahweh Elohecha. You should rejoice not as the pagans rejoice, which is in drunken debauchery and revelry. That's not the kind of rejoicing. What we do is, the rejoicing is before Yahweh your God. So whatever honors Yahweh, we should too, right? Ata, you, but also bincha, your sons, ubitecha, and your daughters, v'avtecha, your servants, v'amatecha, your maidservants, v'halevi, and the Levites, asher b'sharecha, which are in your gates, v'hager, even the stranger, v'hayatom, and certainly the widow, v'ha'almana, yatom is the orphans, v'ha'almana, and the widows, asher b'kirbacha. So in other words, this is for everyone. It doesn't matter your social status, it doesn't matter your relationship status. Everyone is to be rejoicing, and each of us are meant. Each of us. Hey, Christina just walked in. All of us are to rejoice, and we're to make sure everybody with us rejoices. In other words, we are not to just ignore the poor, the strangers, the widows, the orphans. When we celebrate as a community before the Lord, what pleases the Lord is that everyone is remembered, right? Even the stranger, even the widow and the orphan, right? Amen. So, in the place, and ba'amakom, and which is the emphasis, Asher Yibchar, which the Lord Yahweh Elohecha has chosen, l'shakein shmo sham, to place His divine name there. So, the fact that we're all gathered together here in Perry, and the fact that we are rejoicing here, is an indication that God has placed His name here, because He's chosen it for us. Sheyivcha, right? Because that's where He tells us we are to be. But Zacharta, now remember, Eved Hayita b'Mitzrayim, that you were a slave in Egypt. Remember, slave Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim in Hebrew, actually.
I'm so I'm just gonna quit. Okay, I'm sorry.
Mitzrayim means Meitzar means the narrow place. Egypt is not just the Nile, just like we say denial isn't the place in Egypt, right? In the same way that Egypt has a geographic location, the truth is Egypt has no geographic location. We can all find ourselves in a place of narrowness, in a place of stricture, in a place of oppression, the place where the enemy has constricted us, so that we are like slaves, right? That's what mates are. That's the true meaning of the word. So remember that when you were a slave, remember when you were unsaved. Remember when you were double-minded. Remember when you were lost, right? Remember when you were oppressed by the enemy. So guard va'asita, and you should keep et hachukim ha'ela, these statutes. You see, it translates these laws. That's a wrong translation. This is, we had this whole thing this morning, this guy trying to say that everything in the Hebrews are all laws. It's just not true. It's just totally not true. And I pointed it out, but it was ignored. In any case, doesn't matter. It's the bottom line is chukim, statutes, that we, and some of them are for eternity, right? Chag Sukkot. Now here we have, so remember that you were a slave, remember that you were oppressed, and therefore guard these laws. Why should you guard the laws? Because the laws in Psalm 1, I believe it's Psalm 119, I could be wrong, but it says that the law is the light. It can be the light of our eyes. The law is, and the different aspects of law, Torah me'erat einayim, it enlightens the eyes. It soothes the soul. It gives you healing. So take care to obey these laws, because God doesn't want you to be in Egypt. God doesn't want you to stay in Egypt. God doesn't want, and Egypt is, if we understand Egypt in a larger sense as a state of mind, as a state of being, as a state of consciousness, you can leave that state of consciousness by what? By observing God, by obeying His chukim, His statutes. Chag Sukkot, the festival of booths, ta'aseh lecha shivat yamim, you should make for yourselves for 7 days, ba'aspecha, from your threshing floor, megarnecha, from your ingathering, umigvecha, from your vat. And you should rejoice bechagecha, in your festival. Ata, you, ubincha, again, your sons, ubitecha, and your daughters, v'abtecha, and your servants, v'amotecha, and your maidservants, v'halevi, and the Levite, v'hager, and the stranger, v'hayatom, and the orphans, v'ha'almana, and the widows, asher b'sharecha, which are in your communities, which are in your gates. Shivat yamim tachog la'Yahweh Elohecha. 7 days should be a celebration, a festival to Yahweh your God, b'makom, in the place Asher Yibchar, which He chooses, Yahweh, ki yivarechecha, because Yahweh Elohecha b'chol tuascha, because God will bless, Yahweh your God will bless all your wheat. In other words, God will bless all your undertakings, right? V'chol ma'aseh yadecha, and all the actions of your hand, v'ayita, and you will be ach sameh. In other words, the reward for rejoicing now is success in your later endeavors in life. The success of your plantings and the success of the works of your hands. So if you celebrate with God, God will make sure that your celebration will continue throughout the year. That's the reason why we're together. Right? Shalosh pa'amim b'shana. How many times are we together? 3 times b'shana, in every year. Yira'eh, will I see kol zechurcha, all your males at Penei, by the, who are in the face of Yahweh Elohecha, b'makom, in the place Asher Yibchar, which Yahweh has chosen. B'chag hamatzot, it is the festival of matzot, of unleavened bread. U'b'chag haShavuot, and it's the festival of Shavuot. U'b'chag haSukkot, and the festival of the booths, right? V'lo yira'eh, and do not come to me, let me not see at Penei Yahweh, let me not see, and you should not see the face of your Lord, Rekam, empty-handed. As we ought to bring our gifts, tangible, material gifts, for the Lord your God. Don't appear before the Lord your God empty-handed. Eish kamatnat yado, each according to his ability of his hand. Kebirkat, as God has blessed Yahweh Elohecha, the Yahweh as God has blessed you. Asher natan lach, which He has given and bestowed upon you. So this is a section that reminds us about the 3 great festivals that Israel is to appear. All are to appear and to rejoice before the Lord your God. And I want to share with you now, reading from Isaiah, chapter 10, verse 32 through 12:6. It sounds much more than it is. Don't worry, it's not that long, but it's related to this idea. Isaiah relates to the idea that about the Messiah and why the festivals, how the festivals tie together with Messiah. So let's look at Isaiah 32. Od hayom benov la'amod yitznof yado har. This same day at Nob he shall stand and wave his hand. Har habayit, on the mountain of fair Zion, Givat Yerushalayim, the hill of Jerusalem. Hinei ha'adon Yahweh Tzevaot, behold, the sovereign Yahweh of hosts, Mis'af purech b'ma'ar tzrecha. He will hew off the tree crowns with an axe. Right? Uramei hakoma giduim, and the tall ones. The Ramei actually means the haughty ones, the very high ones. They will be felled. Giduim, they will fall. V'hagvoim, and the high ones shall be shpalu. They will be humbled. They will be cut down. Right? V'nikaf sovavai hayar, and the thickets of the forest shall be hacked away by barzel with iron. Bahalevanon, and the trees of Lebanon, ba'adir, in their majesty and their greatness, yipol, they shall fall. Vayatsa chotef migizah Yishai. So Yishai is always the reference to Messiah. Yishai is a reference to Yeshua. Vayatsa chotef, but a shoot shall grow out of the stump of Jesse, of Yishai. Venetzer, and a twig, Misharshav Yifraeha, shall sprout from his stock, shall sprout Yifraeha, Venacha, Alav Ruach Yahweh, and the spirit of Yahweh shall fall upon him, Ruach Chachma, the spirit of wisdom, Ubina, the spirit of understanding, Ruach Eitzah, the spirit of counsel, Ugvara, and might, Ruach Da'as, the spirit of knowledge, V'yirat Yahweh, and the spirit of the fear of the Lord, V'yirat, and the fear of the Lord, V'hayerecho B'yirat Yahweh, and his spirit in the fear of the Yahweh, V'lo lemare einav, and he will judge, not according to what his eyes see, lemare einav, what is it by appearance, Yishpot v'lo l'mishma aznav, and he will not listen to what the ears say, and yochiach, and he will rebuke. V'shafat b'tzedek dalim, and he shall judge the poor, b'tzedek, with righteousness, dalim, the poor. V'hochiach, and he will rebuke, b'mishor, with justice, la'anve eretz, to the lowly of the land, v'hika eretz b'shevet, he shall strike down the land, b'shevet piv, with the rod of his mouth, v'ruach sfatav, and by the spirit of his lips, yamit rasha, he shall kill the wicked, he shall slay the wicked, v'hayat tzedek ezor, and it shall be that righteousness will be the girdle, matnav, of his loins, V'ha'amunah ezor chaltzav, and faithfulness shall be the girdle of his waist. V'gazar ze'ev im kevesh, and the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. V'namer im gedi yirbats, and the leopard shall play with the kid, with the lamb. Ve'egbel ukfir umri, and the calf and the beast of prey and the fatling together, yachdav, v'na'ar katon, and a young child, noheg bam, will herd them. Upara v'dov tirena, and the cow and the bear shall graze, yachdav, together. Irbitzu liladehem, their young shall lie down together. Va'aryeh kabakar, and the lion, like the ox, yochal teven, shall eat the straw. v'sha'shah yonek, and a baby who is nursing will play al char peten, on over a viper's hole, va'al mu'urat Sufina gamul yado hada, and an infant's passed its hand over the den of the adder. Lo yira'u velo yashitu, nothing shall be evil, and there shall be no vileness. B'chol har kachi, in all my holy mountain. Ki malah haaretz, because the earth will be filled. De'ah et Yahweh, with the knowledge of the Lord. Kamayim, like waters, layam mechasim, like the waters that cover the sea. V'haya bayom ahu, and it shall be on that day, shorish Yishai, the root of Jesse, the root of Yishai, the root of Messiah, asher omed lanei samim, it shall stand in as a miracle for the people, or a standard. Ailav, to him goyim yidrishu, nations shall ask and get counsel. V'haita menuchato kavod, and it shall be that his rest shall be for glory. V'haya bayom ahu, and it shall be on that day, Yosef Adonai shenit yado, in that day that it shall be an increase of his sovereignty a second time, liknot et shar amo, in order to redeem the remnant of his people, asher yishaer meushar u'mitzrayim, that shall be other part of this people which shall come from Assyria, also from Egypt, Omi Patros, and from Patros, Omi Cush, from Cush, from Elam, Omi Shinar, and from Shinar, Omi Chamat Mo'iye Hayam, from Chamat and the coastlands. V'nasa Nes Lagoyim, and God will make as a sovereign miracle for the nations. Va'asaf Nidchei Yisrael, and he will assemble the banished of Israel. Unufutzot Yehuda, and gather the dispersed of Judah. Yikabetz me'arba kanfot haaretz, from the four corners of the earth. V'sara kinat Ephraim, v'sorei Yehuda yikaretu, Ephraim's envy shall stop, and Judah's harassment shall end. Lo yikanet Yehuda, Ephraim shall not envy Judah. Yehuda lo yatzoret Ephraim, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim. Va'afu b'katei Plishtim, they shall pounce on the back of the Philistines to the west. Yachdav v'yavuzu b'nei Kedem, and plunder the peoples of the east. Edom u'Moav mishloach yadam, shall be subject to them. Ubnei Ammon mishma'atam, and the children of Ammon shall hear them. V'hechari Yahweh et lashon yam Mitzrayim, and God will dry up the tongue of the Egyptian sea. V'henif yadon, will raise a hand over the Euphrates with a mighty wind, and break it. V'hikahu l'shivat nachalim, into seven rivers. V'hadrich b'na alim, so that it can be trodden dry shod. In other words, this is the Euphrates will dry up, yeah, so it can be trodden. They say that's happening right now, right? V'haita Misulal l'shar amo, there shall be a highway for the other part of Israel out of Assyria. Asher yishamu shakaz hetel Yisrael b'yom alatom eretz Mitzrayim. Such as there was for this people when they left the land of Egypt. And that day you shall say, Yahweh ki afanta ki yeshova apcha v'tachameni. I give thanks to you, O God, although you were in wrath with me, your wrath has turned back and you comfort me. Yinel Yeshua si aftach below echad. Behold the God who gives triumph. Eftach, I am confident, I trust, below echad, and I will have no fear. Ki aziv zimrat Yah, because Yahweh is my strength and my might. Yahweh vayhi li, and he is to me Yeshua, as a Yeshua, as deliverance, as salvation. Ushaftem mayim b'sasom mimanei Yeshua, and with joy you shall draw out water from the fountains of Yeshua, from the fountains of salvation. V'amartem bayom ahu, and you shall say on that day, Hodu Yahweh kiru b'shmo, praise be Yahweh, and let us call out his name. Hodio ba'amim, let it be known amongst the nations, alilotav, his exaltedness. Hiskiru, remember, Kiniskav Shemo, that his name is exalted. Zamru Yahweh, let us sing to Yahweh, Ki Gaut Asa, for he has done with majesty, with glory. Mozot B'chol Haaretz, let it be known this for all the earth. Tzahali V'rani Yoshevet Zion, shout for joy and celebrate, you who dwell in Zion, Ki Gadol, because very great B'kirbech in your midst. Kadosh Israel is the Holy One of Israel. Okay, so that's Isaiah. Prophecy for the future. The stump of the root of Jesse shall sprout. Let it be very soon. Amen. So, Pesach is significant, right? Because Pesach is primarily about not something that happened a long time ago. It's about freedom. It's about liberty, right? And freedom and liberty, not as freedom to do all one wishes, but freedom to serve the Lord, liberty to serve God. Now, freedom is never given, Philip Randolph reminds us. It is won. If you want, Dwight Eisenhower pointed out in reference to security and the tension between security and freedom. If you want total security, go to prison. There you're fed, clothed, given medical care, and so on. The only thing lacking for you is freedom. So Passover lasts for 7 days, right? And the Jewish people celebrate it for 8 days because of the rabbis. But in any case, it's 7 days. So the name, where does the name Pesach come from? So I mentioned to you that everybody thinks the name of Passover is, that Pesach is Passover, or it can mean the Paschal Lamb, but that's not the Hebrew root. The Hebrew root actually, the oldest and most reliable stem of the word Pesach, Pe Samachet, actually means to have compassion.
Wow.
So Passover is compassion, to have compassion. Another is, the root word is sach, is to protect. The third one everyone knows is to skip over or to pass over, right? But the truth is, the root, the deep Hebrew root of it is to have compassion, right? So God has compassion because the Israelites are no different than the Egyptians. And Satan raises that up as a claim and says, why should you save these people? They're no better than the Egyptians. And the truth of the matter is, that argument has validity, but God says, this is my will, and that's what it's going to be. And there's a lot more to say about that aspect. But all true freedom requires a sacrifice. There's a price. So liberty means responsibility, and that's of course true when it comes to Pesach, right? Having compassion is a responsibility. Every loving mother knows how heavy that responsibility can lie sometimes. Having compassion on your children and your husband and your family can weigh heavily sometimes. But true compassion is responsibility. That is why George Bernard Shaw says most men dread it. If you look at Hitler couldn't have done what he could do unless he had a tacit agreement with a nation. And why did they give him that agreement? Just because he said, give me your freedom and I will give you your security. They traded their freedom for security. He said, I will make you great. He promised them all kinds of great things. And Hitler couldn't have done anything without the agreement of the millions of Germans.
Yes.
He was able to do that because people, and this is found in history over and over again, man's great, one of the roots of man's great failings is he's willing to trade his freedom for and liberty for security. So so that's why removing the leaven is the great responsibility.
Yeah.
Removing the leaven, the chametz, the saor, which we find in our lives, in our hearts, in our minds, is the great task on the way to salvation and redemption through Yeshua. So the removal commemorates the fact that Israel left Egypt in a hurry, but it's really about a spiritual removing of the puffing or rising of arrogance and pride from our life. Proverbs reminds us when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Humility comes wisdom. This is why one of the great antidotes to pride is fasting, because the first sin of pride was done eating. So the remedy is to not eat and to go back into the Garden of Eden. Most of the trouble, T.S. Eliot told us this problem of responsibility and the fact that most men dread it and the fact that pride comes with disgrace and this pride is such a problem because T.S. Eliot reminds us most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important. Right? So therefore the Haggadah points out this bread, or the bread of affliction that Israel made on their flight from Egypt, this lechem oni. This bread of affliction is a remembrance, is to remind us not so much that it's about, oh, woe us, we are victims. That's not the message of Passover. Oh, we were slaves. Oh, woe to us. The message is, you agreed to tacit slavery because you were partners with Pharaoh by not removing the leaven in your hearts. You traded freedom for security, and in that security you became slaves, right? And the founding fathers of this country knew and understood this very, very well. So, right, when there's a famous story about a lady who's asked, I think it was, who was it? It was one of the great, I don't remember who, but one of you will know. Huh? No, he said, one of the ladies said, well, what have you gentlemen done when they finished signing their names on the Constitution, which is essentially, giving a death warrant for anybody who signed it. And he says, well, ma'am, what we just did is we gave you freedom if you can keep it.
Wow. So
the idea is that, yeah, freedom can be written in a document, but it's really written in the hearts of people, right? So, and this is why the temptation of carnal man is to trade that freedom for security. But God doesn't want us to be slaves to man. He wants us to be free to serve Him, and therefore to become the glory that He is, to be like God. So the Haggadah points out this affliction comes back regularly upon people who, and the Israelites have been the object of this, is when they don't remember to be humble. And that is, we have the Egyptians, but then it was the Babylonians. And after the Babylonians oppressed the Jewish people, Israel, and all then it was the Greeks, and then it was the Romans, and then it was the Crusaders, and then it's the Inquisitors, and then it's the Cossacks, and then it's the Nazis. Soon it'll be it'll be another group, and then it'll be, it could be the synagogue of Satan. Who knows, right? It's relentless. It's endless, right? Why? Just because the enemy, right? The enemy's behind it all.
And Moses,
yeah, Abby, Sister Abby, had a question?
Moses' cousin was the first one who wanted to be important once he left Egypt. Moses' cousin.
What do you mean, Aaron?
No, his cousin that started all the rebellion.
Oh, it's you're talking about Korah. Yeah, Korah. Yes.
He created so many
problems. So many problems, right. So in any case.
I was just going to say, it reminded me, you said you trade your security for...
Say a little louder, Abby, so everybody can hear you.
So, if I'm not getting married, I don't have security, just me personally, right? But I have freedom.
Well, you have the best of both worlds. Because, you're in Yeshua, so God has arranged it so that you can have both. You have a certain freedom, which most people don't have, and yet you have also security. That's a beautiful thing. You should be thanking God every day. Every day, because most people dream about one or the other. They can have one, but they can't have the other. They can have the security, but then they're slave to a job. Yeah. Or they can give up the security of a job, but then they're dirt poor. They don't have a pot to, what. Anyway, so that usually ends up for most people, it's one or the other, right? Yeah. So it's a great blessing to have both. All right, so that, so what are we to take? So So Passover celebrates the first victorious eternal nation, which everybody's been grafted in who accepts Yeshua. But it's a process that we are to endure and to be perfected, even in the process of our because Yeshua reminded us, as long as you're in the world, you will have tribulation. And yet the tribulation, he says, have good cheer because you can overcome it, right? Amen. So, one last thing before I ask Brother Yaakov to share his amazing finding in reference to what's coming from the east in the constellation of the sky. I just want to remind you that I said this over Passover, the Seder, but I want to repeat some parts of it, which was that of the three major events in Christ's life, his birth, death, and resurrection, the Bible commands us to memorialize only one. We're only to memorialize Yeshua's death, but the pagan church has invented new holidays, which are here. I don't know when they're celebrating Easter and Christmas, right? But Christmas, which is pagan, and also what they say Resurrection Sunday, they call it Easter. But nowhere in Scripture does it say we're to memorialize that. We're only to memorialize his death. So therefore, the New Testament church was still keeping the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread decades after Christ's crucifixion. In Acts 26, we see they went on ahead and were waiting for us at Troas, but we sailed away from Philippi after the days of the unleavened bread. So here we see that the church, centuries after Yeshua had died, was still celebrating Passover. Paul in 1 Corinthians reminds us that we need to celebrate Passover. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump as you are unleavened. For even Christ, Yeshua, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven. Notice that he said, let us keep the feast. He didn't say, forget about it. You don't need it. Yeah. It's old law. Dump it. Right? Neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, or with the unleavened bread. Celebrate the Passover. Keep the feast with the unleavened bread of what? With the unleavened bread. But it should be unleavened bread that's not just religion of eating bread, but of sincerity and truth. Because that's what the meaning of matzah, the meaning of the unleavened bread, actually really means. It means to eat the bread of sincerity and truth. So after Apostle John died in AD 100, he passed leadership to Polycarp, a true Christian. And one of the most important events in Polycarp's ministry was his battle to preserve the Passover. The churches in the West began observing Sunday as a memorial to Christ's resurrection and abandoned the Passover. According to Irenaeus, Bishop Sixtus of Rome was the first recorded individual to prevent the proper observance of the Passover and celebrate it on Sunday. And therefore it just continued downhill from there, that basically the church gave up the keeping of the Passover and substituted the false Sunday, Easter Sunday. Now, the world is in spiritual darkness. So the fight for Passover is not ancient history. It's the old fight that we have between truth of God and the Holy Word and traditions of men mixed with truth. As Christ himself warned, the world is in spiritual darkness. And like Polycarp and Polycarp, hi, shalom, brother. Brother Yaakov just walked in. The original apostle in Yeshua, we must have the courage to fight for God's truth. So keep the Passover as Christ commanded, in remembrance of his body and remembrance of his blood. Those of us who were here, we were able to celebrate Passover both with the bread of Yeshua, the Passover unleavened bread, and also the blood through the wine that we have. So now, the 7th book in the chapter of Daniel, there's amazing prophecy. And we see there in that prophecy of Nebuchadnezzar and the Chaldean Empire, it tells of a successive world rule of the Persian Empire, the Greco-Macedonian kingdom, and finally the mighty Roman Empire. And out of the original Roman Empire, symbolized by 10 horns, growing out of the head of a beast, are pictured the 10 resurrections. And among these 10 kingdoms which have ruled the Western world since the fall of Rome, there's another little horn whose look was more stout than his fellows. In other words, another government, actually smaller yet dominating all the others. Students of prophecy know what this little horn is. As a great religious hierarchy, it is stated that the hierarchy shall think to change the times and the laws. The same power is mentioned again in the 17th chapter of Revelation. It's pictured here ruling over the kings and kingdoms of the earth, persecuting the true saints. In every possible manner, this power has changed time. Let's look at how it's changed times. We know who we're talking about, right? The RCC, the Roman Catholic Church, right? God begins the day at sunset, or actually at sunrise. But the little horn has changed it, so the world now begins the day in the middle of the night by a man-made watch. God begins the week with the ending of the true Sabbath, the 7th day of the week, but the world begins the working week in the middle of the night, the 2nd day of the week. God begins the months with the new moons, but this little horn wants to begin the months according to a clumsy man-made calendar of heathen origin. God begins the year in the early spring, where new life is budding in nature everywhere. Passover, right? Mm-hmm. But ancient heathen Rome caused the world to begin the year in the middle of dead winter. Mm-hmm. God gave the children a true rest day designed to keep them in the knowledge and true worship of the true God, the 7th day of the week. But the little horn has fastened upon a deluded world the observance on the days on which the pagans worship the sun, the 1st day of the week, and they call it Sunday. And this is where we are in the world today. In every possible way, this power has changed times. And so, the fight for Passover is not over. It is continuing. It is continuing for those who will keep the light of truth open. And therefore, we are to remember, as it says in 1 Corinthians, your glorying is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens a whole lump? Therefore purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, since you truly are unleavened. For indeed, Christ Yeshua, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with the old leaven, nor with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So Chag Sameach, happy Passover to everyone. Happy post-Passover. Happy Sabbath. We're almost ending the Sabbath very soon. But I'm going to now...
Happy Passover. That's it.
Yeah, everybody can say
Happy Passover.
Happy Passover. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. All right, so now... we got a fantastic presentation for you from Brother Yaakov, who has some video and some pictures to show you that they're hiding, that Google is hiding, and that the powers that be are hiding from us of what's really going on in the heavens. So I give it over to Yaakov. Are you? Are you able to? Okay. Yeah. Are you able to?
Join the meeting?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Let me join?
Yeah.
Just hand it over to me and I will share my screen.
Now, I'm not sure how to hand it over to you, brother, but let me see. I'll share. Here we go. Let's see. Share. Okay, you should be able to, let me see. You should be able to... yeah, you should be able to let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you should be able to now go in there. Are you able to go in?
How do you switch to my screen? You gotta hand it over to me.
I gotta hand it over to you. I'm not sure how.
Oh, wait. Share?
No, you could just go in. You should be able to share with everyone.
Screen.
Are you able to do that, bro?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Let
Wonderful.
me pull up what I need to pull up.
Yeah, I think we have to click on his screen too.
Okay. Brother Kevin, how are you?
Good.
We miss you.
Busy, bro. We're very busy, man.
We got to see you. It was great.
Praying all the time. Yeah, it's a blessing, man. Pastor was really great.
Yeah, we're still eating your chocolate. Really good stuff.
All right.
Yeah, it is. It is, Kevin. It's very good. I brought mine home with me. My
Okay, I'm all good. I'm
Okay.
set up. You guys can hear me?
Yeah, barely. You got to speak closer to your microphone, I think.
yeah, you got to speak louder, Jake.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Speakers. Microphone.
Microphone.
Alright, so just give me 1 second. I need to figure out how to turn on this microphone.
Well, you know what, Yashka, you can just come over here and well, you got the
Well, I need to-
video.
Yeah, just speak over by his thing.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, he needs to. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it around so you can use my
Microphone.
microphone.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Oh wait, I think I know what's up. Give me 1 second. It's the thing itself. Wait. No, give me 1 second, guys. I need to. There it is. Can
You
guys
got
hear me?
it. You got it. That's it.
Jacob, can you mute your microphone so we don't have a
Yeah, you got feedback.
Yeah, just click on mute and lower your volume.
I think you got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Lower your volume all the way down.
We still got a little bit kickback, a reverb.
Hold on.
We got reverb, yeah, from
Disable the microphone.